Hi everyone, it's Eleanor. I'm back from the field station with another nature journaling video. And this afternoon I wanted to really focus on nature journaling for kids. So if you are a kid or if you have kids at home with you, I think this is a great activity to do. I'm loving it as a grown-up, but I think it's even better to do with young kids to get them out into nature. It's really great for developing critical thinking skills, scientific thinking skills, curiosity, and appreciation for nature, personal relationship with nature. It's a really wonderful way to spend time. And I just got this new book a few days ago called How to Teach Nature Journaling. It's John Muir Law's latest book. He actually has a free downloadable PDF of the whole book available on his website, but I like having the physical copy out with me, and I like supporting these wonderful educators when I can. It's full of just a huge number of really wonderfully structured, detailed activities. So if you're a teacher or an educator or a parent, you can walk through step by step how to kind of encourage your kids to get involved, and really breaks it down into easy steps. And this afternoon I wanted to work on the very first activity called I Notice, I Wonder, It Reminds Me Of, on page 36. And if you ever read anything by John Muir Laws before, you'll know that that's kind of his mantra. That's his nature journaling mantra to get you in the nature journaling zone. So I'll just read briefly from the description of the activity. It says, "You and your students can learn observation and fundamental inquiry skills through this simple routine." And that's what it is. It really should be a routine that you get into working through these 3 prompts. I notice focuses our attention and helps us articulate and remember our observations. I wonder sparks inquiry and invites us to question deeply and broadly. It reminds me of leads us to connect what we observe to what we already know, which builds stronger memories. The ability to make useful connections between seemingly unrelated things is an important aspect of creativity, and practicing it reminds me of builds this skill. Together, these prompts can change the way you and your students experience the world, offering a routine and practice for learning about anything, which I love the sound of. So I've actually been out here a few minutes already. I have been limbering up my drawing muscles. I already started on a little sketch of the stream in front of me. I also am already working on my bird list of all the birds that I'm hearing, and that's something I like to do. Just like it's nice to get in a routine with I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, I'm starting to develop some routines in my nature journal. So one of them is that I like in the upper left-hand corner to write down the date, the location, the time of day, and a little bit about the weather. And I also like working on a bird list pretty much every time I'm in my nature journal. And if you don't know the names of the birds, you can make up your own names, or you can write down what they look like, or you can write down what they sound like, and you can have your own personal field guide to the birds of wherever you are. And obviously you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but I think it's nice to start developing routines so that when I get to a blank page, I don't have to agonize about what the first thing is that I want to put down. I already kind of know my habit, and then once I do that, that gets me prompted to keep drawing and to keep working on my nature journal pages. So I'm going to keep working on this drawing that I've already started by working through those 3 prompts, and I'm actually going to be saying them out loud. And even if you weren't here with me, I would like to say them out loud. It's helpful to me to hear my own thoughts. It prompts me to keep saying things, to keep noticing things, to keep wondering things. So let's see what I can add to my picture here. And the last thing I'll say before I change the shot is that just like there are 3 prompts that it's useful to work through, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, there are also kind of 3 languages of nature journaling. One is pictures, one is words, and one is numbers. So there's kind of 2 sets of 3 things that I like to keep in my mind as I'm nature journaling. So I'll keep in mind whether so far I haven't used many words, so maybe it's time for me to use some of my words or to use some numbers. And same with the 3 prompts. If I haven't wondered anything recently, or if nothing's reminded me of anything recently, maybe I'll try to use those prompts. So I'll change the shot here, and I hope you'll come along. I notice that this bank is much more undercut than the left side bank. So I'm actually just going to write that down. I notice. I wonder why that is. I notice a lot of jewelweed in this patch of the stream bank. I also notice a lot of stilt grass on the far side. Let's see if I can get a line over there. I notice that there is kind of a channel of mud through part of the stream bank. I wonder if the stream used to go there. So you can already see I'm using I notice and I wonder a lot, but I haven't said anything about anything reminding me of anything. So I'm going to look and actually try to come up with something that I'm looking at that reminds me of something else. I realized something that reminded me of something else. Just as I was sitting here quietly, I noticed the sound of the water and I started to notice the ripples in the water. And that reminded me of an experience I had kayaking. So it doesn't necessarily have to be to something else natural. All of the things that you're noticing out in nature can remind you of other experiences that you've had. And that's a perfectly interesting, worthwhile thing writing down. And maybe next time I'll go kayaking, I'll remember this experience here by the edge of the stream. So I've written some notes on my page. I've used a lot of words and I've used my drawing language. To finish my drawing, I'm going to add a little color and then I'm going to see if I can use my last language, which is numbers. And the tools that I have here today are a watercolor palette, a paintbrush, and I have an old sock on my wrist, and that's going to help me clean off my brush. So like I said, so far I've used pictures and I've used words, but I haven't used any numbers yet. So I'm going to try to incorporate some numbers in my nature journal. That's another great thing about this book is the activities are actually organized according to those three languages. So there's a whole chapter about how to use words, there's a chapter about how to use pictures, and there's a chapter about how to use numbers. And the very first activity in that chapter gives a lot of great ideas about how to use numbers on your nature journal page. One of the first suggestions is to time something that's happening out in nature. And I see something here in the stream that I'd like to time. There's a branch that's dangling in the water, and as it gets moved by the moving water, by the ripples, it's kind of bouncing back and forth. So I've been noticing that for a few minutes now, and I'd like to put a number on how quickly it's flowing back and forth in the water. So I'm going to sit here, and the way that I'm going to measure how quickly it's doing that is this is one of the tools that it's nice to have, not a very complicated tool, a handy one to have is a watch with a second hand. So I think what I'm gonna do is keep an eye on my watch and watch for 30 seconds to go by. And as the 30 seconds go by, I'm gonna count how many times that little branch moves back and forth. So let's see what I find. Okay, so I kept an eye and had 30 seconds and I counted 47 movements of the branch. So now I need to record that in my nature journal. So I switched over to drawing this plant that is sitting right next to me. And I'm still focusing on my 3 prompts. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, and my 3 languages, pictures, words, and numbers. So the picture is pretty clear. I just drew the plant. Then my words, I used those prompts to write down some things that I noticed, I wonder, and it reminds me of about the plant. And the last one is numbers, and as I was drawing the plant, I started to wonder about the number of these little lobes on either side of the leaves of the jewelweed plant. So again, that activity has a couple different suggestions for how you can use numbers, and 2 of them are to measure things and to count things, and I'm actually going to do both at once. So with each of the leaves on the plants, I have a little ruler, and I measure how long the plant, or the leaf is rather, and this one I'm measuring, I think 58 millimeters, and then I count the number of the lobes on one side of the leaf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I wrote it down in my table. And I did this for all the leaves on the plant, and now I think when I go back inside I can make a little graph even of showing the relationship between the length of the leaf and the number of lobes that it has. And once you start to look for things to measure and to count, I bet you're going to find them everywhere. There are so many things that you can measure and count and time and add numbers to in all sorts of different ways once you start to look for them. And like I said, it's all about building habits and routines, and once you start to notice and wonder and make connections, use your words and your pictures and your numbers, you're going to keep finding things to draw and write about in your nature journal. So I hope that gave you some ideas to work in your nature journal, and I would love to see what you make. Thanks for watching. Bye.